Hello and happy Tuesday, diary listeners. I have a very cool podcast for you guys. It's something I tried to do earlier on in my career with actually my two friends, Bree and Jake Kirk, but I had such a deplorable knowledge of audio that I really just blasphemed the entire interview. We really didn't get good audio, so I have to catch them up again, but just to let you guys know, I'm super happy that I've had another opportunity to meet with a stellar power couple, Jess and Kevin Farrand of Mesmer Tattoo. This is part one of their diary entry, and we're calling part one Risk. So enjoy, listeners. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Sweet.
Wunderbar. All right. Hi, diary listeners. I'm here today with Kevin and Jess Farrand of Mesmer Tattoo, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
And that's in Rochester, New York, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. And do you guys own it?
Yes.
Yeah, we're the owners. Yeah.
Awesome.
We opened it up a few years ago.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Well, we're going to get into it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because I just met you guys at Paradise Tattoo gathering, and Jess, you approached me. You were like, "Oh my God, I want to be on your show."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, people want to be on my show. That's awesome." But you guys have a very interesting story.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I get both of you, so that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
The first in the tattoo realm was you, Kevin, right?
Yes. Yep. I started like 13 years ago.
Awesome. And
Yep. Then we got Jess in.
wonderful. And I guess how do I, because I've never done this. Like I've met with friends that are together, and I kind of, I knew their backstory. I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
From what I gathered from you, Jess, you had asked about you learning from Kevin how to tattoo, and how everybody said not to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like the general consensus from most
Yeah.
professional tattooers was like, don't
It's
do
a bad
it.
idea.
You will regret it.
Yeah.
You will fail.
Yeah.
And we did it anyway.
Yeah. We were like, you know what? we can make it happen. It took a while before that moment. Like it was like a couple of years of Jess kind of begging me.
Yeah, I kept
and
asking
me.
him.
She was like working as a vet tech full time, and then also managing like a smoothie place for a while too.
Yeah, I had quit my job being a vet tech, and then I became like a business manager of this food establishment. And then at the same time, I got a job as a receptionist at a tattoo shop, because I was like, all right, I'm going to get my foot in the door working as a receptionist, learn all the customer service part of it, and ask questions while people are tattooing. And then in the meantime, I just kept like hounding him to teach me how to tattoo.
And I was not keen on the idea at all. I was like, sounds like a really bad idea. Like, I don't know. Also, first of all, I was like only 5 years in, or at the time, like 4 years into tattooing. So I was 4 or 5, and I was like, I'm not ready. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know I'm doing enough, but like not to teach another person how to do what I'm doing yet, And it took like a couple of years, but we went back and forth about it. And we even reached out. So we reached out to, I think it was, Jake Meeks on Fireside, his podcast live. Like he had Ulysses Blair and a couple other people on his show, and we like tuned into his live questions, and we're like, hey, like this is a loaded one, but what do you think about apprenticing your significant other? Or, and everybody immediately was like, whoa, like not a good idea. Probably Ulysses just like, I think he just shit on the idea. He was like, he's like, dude, horrible idea. There's always going to be a dynamic of like, person with all the knowledge is like holding this information over your head and yada, yada. And he went through this whole list of things. And it kind of came down to like, we thought about it, and I was like, man, like, okay, that's heavy. But I think we should seriously think about it still and consider it. And Jess was like, I don't care what they say, like
It was like, we can
do
prove
it.
them all wrong.
But on the
Of
flip
course
side,
you're gonna be like that.
Yeah. I'm like, I want it,
Yeah.
so let's do it.
Yeah, if you want it bad enough, if you want tattooing bad enough, you're going to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Jess definitely had that drive too,
Yeah.
which I had early on as well. So I saw that in her. I was like, okay, she's not giving up, even though people are saying this is a bad idea, and you have to have that. So,
Well,
yeah.
there's a few things. I mean, what I was gonna say is that, you were new relatively. I mean, 5 years in is about when you start feeling really solid as a tattoo artist, but ready to
Mhm.
take on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
It was a tough decision. Yeah, it was tough, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do this whole thing by myself, because I personally knew that you can't in a relationship, like someone's always going to have like the boyfriend girlfriend filter they're hearing things through. And it's not like a mentor teacher scenario thing. It's like you can try all you want to have it be that way, but your partner's not going to be able to hear everything that you have to say in the way that you're putting it out there. So
Yeah.
Well,
I was trying to be
I find
patient.
it fascinating because I don't know if you guys know anything about me, but I grew up in a small business family. My parents owned a salon together, so that kind of dynamic, and it didn't go awesome. It went awesome for a really long time. My mom never learned how to cut hair. She was more the business side, and my dad was more of the talent. But the relationship definitely did come into play. But for me, it's fascinating just because I love to, I'm with you guys. I like the more the success and the hope and the optimism and risking big and hard. And I think that's the kind of stuff you got to do when you want to pursue something like this,
Definitely.
So I really admired the fact, one, that you just didn't listen to anybody. But, Kevin, one thing that I noticed about you right away is that you are like a perpetual smile. You're always smiling. You're really great to meet in eye contact during, the seminars and things like that when speaking, because I get a little, stage fright up there. So it's always fun to find somebody in the crowd that you can like lock eyes with. Okay, they're smiling. They're smiling.
Yeah, you were great. Your seminar was amazing, by the way. I was really stoked on that, and like we both learned so much from that. And me being 12 years into tattooing now at this point with 13, there's still so many things I was like, wow, that's a major takeaway. I'm going to implement that in our daily, work lives. So thank you for that. It was awesome.
Oh no, of course. And Jess, I think I saw you put out, this is a segue, but I just saw that you put out a really nice like reminder for, winter tattoo acquisition that I thought was just such a great thing to do, kind of remind people about, and you can design it any way you'd like to, but it's just kind of telling people how to be like the right kind of client for you. I think it's a really good thing to put out.
And you just gotta keep in mind too that a lot of people just like don't know certain things. Like they would never think like, oh, I do have to moisturize every single day before my tattoo appointment, or like, oh, drinking water actually is very important for the health of my skin. So I definitely like to put out some of that educational stuff, because even for like newer tattooers too, it's just nice to like see some of that kind of stuff, and maybe even have artists out there that you look up to that are a little bit more approachable, even online. So you can ask them questions to like be a better tattooer from the beginning, It's nice to have that.
Jess is really good at that, about communicating online with her online presence.
I would imagine that comes from a little bit of your managerial places and having to coordinate, in the medical world of animals, particularly, you don't have that that language, and you're learning from people who have to work with animals, and how to meet people who are really scared and upset about their babies.
Definitely.
So that's a good thing. And those things that you just listed, they're things that are for generalized health. Most people forget to hydrate during the winter anyway, because your body goes,
oh my gosh,
false sense of like, I'm good. And it's like, no, you're just cold. You need to drink.
Right?
I know. Straight up.
Well, most people are chronically dehydrated too. Yeah. So it's just anytime anybody like has an issue, I'm like, drink more water.
Yeah, no, that's very, very key. Just to generalize health in general. But yeah, the those kind of things, and this is kind of really cool because now you can expand upon your dreams as a collective. Whereas before it was going to be a conflict no matter what. And so I could see that being like, yeah, we do just have to try this, because if you're in the relationship being like, I want this, he's always going to have you in his ear constantly. So it's either go with it or fight it,
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would have figured it out either way, but
I would have figured it out another way.
I'm glad it
happened.
happened.
Me too.
How it did.
Yeah. I want to say that, there's a lot of people saying, no, it's a bad idea, but I also was exposed to plenty of power couples in tattooing, people who either learned to tattoo on their own and then came together and as a couple opened their own studio, or own their own private studio, or I know a lot of different artists who already kind of had been in that same realm and were successful at it. Off the top of my head, I could think of Guy Aitchison and Michelle Wortman, and they're, very successful. And I'm talking, this was 6-7 years ago at least, or I learned about his work when I was apprenticing. So 12, 13 years ago, and learned about them then. So in the back of my head, I knew I had that to look at from a long time ago. So I was like, wow, if, and there was a handful of other tattooers that I also met at conventions as well that did the same thing. And I was like, if they can do it, I know that Jess and I can make it work. It's not going to be easy, but I know that we can work through it and make sure that we get Jess to learn how to tattoo.
But no relationship is easy either. You got to have mutual trust, mutual respect, open communication, effective communication.
I feel like we have
decent, and boundaries too,
that too.
And every relationship goes through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
now, did you, Jess, beforehand, did you draw a lot, and did you show that kind of passion at home?
Oh yeah. I've been filling sketchbooks ever since I was a kid. And then even when I was a vet tech and really starting to get burned out a lot, I was just drawing and painting all the time, nonstop. So yeah, I just never really stopped making art. And I was I saw what Kevin was doing, and I had people asking me to draw designs so they can go and get them tattooed. And I was like, why don't I do this? If it doesn't work out and I give it an honest shot, then it didn't work out for me. It's not my path, But once I got into it and started learning, I was like, oh yeah, this is it for me for sure.
Yeah. And I did see that talent in Jess too, from her, I've seen her artwork from high school to, through now. And it's not I didn't, if I didn't see anything in her artistic ability at all, I'd be like, hey, you need to start here. You really need to start just with your art and build that up a lot more. And I'm pretty sure I did say that to you anyway, because everybody who's getting into tattooing at first are like, oh, I make great art, I can do this. And it's there's a little bit of a hard lesson right at the beginning. You need to make sure your art is on point before you get into tattooing. You really should be working on it every day and love it and be trying to get better every day. That's the biggest thing I feel when I see a lot of apprentices asking for an apprenticeship. I don't see the work yet. The artistic ability.
Well, and that submission to critique and really just trying to be the best they can be at that point. They just want to skip the jump a lot. How did you guys meet? We didn't get to that part because I would feel like that's an essential part of this.
It actually is. We met through a mutual friend. Oh my gosh, when Kevin was apprenticing to tattoo.
Yeah.
He was working at Tim Hortons. He was apprenticing to tattoo. I was in high school, and we met through a mutual friend at a skate park.
Yeah.
That mutual friend of ours is now tattooing with us. He's been tattooing for 2 years, and Kevin apprenticed him to tattoo.
So it's a crazy roundabout story. But my good friend Cameron Yeager, he basically, we used to paint graffiti and skateboard together and make art all the time. It's kind of crazy. Our friendship is based on art. It's pretty nuts. We used to stay up, till 3 or 4 in the morning making art.
I will say this. I'm not I want to be the kind of person that collects the tattoos he does, but I will say that his personality is amazing. It comes through and his tattoos so well, and he does such good work. He's a very good tattoo artist.
He
will
has
love to
so
hear
much
that
passion.
from you. Yeah, he'd
Yeah.
love to hear that. I'm sure it'll mean a lot to him
Dude,
because he
I
puts a
mean,
lot of love into it.
I can tell. I really
Yeah.
can tell. And just it's fun. It's really fun. I enjoy it a lot. I take myself way too seriously, so that's what that's my problem. Is that like
Sure.
I want to be like that cool, but I'm not. But I'm
You're
not.
cool in your own way.
You're rad. I don't.
Not like I want to be like skater cool. I'm not skater cool. I've never
That's
been skater
Cam
cool.
through and through.
Yeah.
I'm nerd. I guess I'm nerd cool, but yeah.
We're all just a bunch of
I'm right there
freaks
with
and
you. I'm
geeks.
pretty much just, yeah. I feel the same way. People are
Yeah.
like, oh, dude, you're like your work's cool, like so good, and you're so rad. I'm like, dude, I'm just a big art nerd. I just love what we do. Like that's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. But
You definitely have more of like what I would consider I consider myself a romantic. And Jess, I can see it in yours too, of just like, kind of this lyrical composition of like things.
Yeah.
And there's
really,
like a nice flow and just a romance to it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like a sap that way. Um, but I love Cameron's stuff. I really, really do. I'd love to get him on the show because this is like another
Yeah.
branch off to the whole story for sure.
That would be amazing.
yeah, basically, like long story short, and that whole thing is like we met through Cam
Yep.
and met at a skate park and dated for a little while, and then at that, yeah, I was just apprenticing, right?
Yeah, you were
Finishing my
up.
apprenticeship, and Jess and I split up. I moved to Hawaii
I went
by
to
myself.
college.
Yeah, Jess went to college to be a vet tech. That's what she wanted to do.
All Kevin wanted was to surf and
Yep.
tattoo.
Yep. So I moved halfway across the world to Maui for a year just to kind of test it out and to learn how to surf. And I lined up a job tattooing first before I made the move. And it was just kind of like the situation kind of fell into my lap. And I was like, this is where I want to go and what I want to do. So went and did that and ended up moving back after about a year and a half or so. I think
It's like 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, I was after that.
I had
about 2 years.
graduated college by the time you
That's
moved
right.
back.
What shifted?
So,
I'm curious.
yeah.
Like
From
you-
moving back.
He had his
Yeah,
heart
like why?
broken.
Yeah, I don't know. I was young too. I was like
True.
22. There was a mix
You're
of
like,
things.
I can't
for
do
sure.
this forever. This is dumb.
Yeah, this is too good. This is too good. Like, why would I do this? I don't deserve to be this happy forever.
If
No,
I'm gonna do this, I should do it with someone.
right, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I ended up. I felt like I needed to move home to kind of regroup and ground myself and figure out what was next. Because I want to also mention that tattooing out in Hawaii is much different than it is here.
Yeah.
On the mainland, it's basically a tourist-driven industry. You're doing mostly walk-ups, and you're having to work with people who are on vacation wanting a permanent souvenir, and they have to get it at the end of their vacation because of sun exposure and water exposure, all that stuff. So I was like, I really have always had a drive and a passion for large scale decorative tattooing. Like I really wanted to, since I knew from the beginning, like in my apprenticeship, that I wanted to do like large scale work, like sleeves and back pieces.
Like Jeff Gogway.
Yeah, like Jeff Gogway and Guy Aitchison. Yeah, right. Oh my God, his work is amazing.
Let's all bombard him and be like, Jeff,
yeah,
take us under wing, please.
Right.
Yeah, teach me your ways.
I love him.
But yeah, so I had that in my head, and I was like doing a lot of just small work at the time, which was probably good for me. But I was like, I have a better clientele for this large scale work on the mainland, and
I can put a bullet on it. You cared more about tattooing than you did about surfing.
Yeah, pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
I love surfing and I still do, but I definitely
if I had to choose,
art and tattooing definitely comes first, and that's been my passion since I was a teenager. When I got into it, so
I had the same. Just so you know, I mean, not with surfing, but I loved riding horses, and I would love to map out a life for myself where I get to be around horses, just be around them again. I love the smell and just like, I don't know, they bring me so much peace. But I had to make a choice, do I want to pursue art more, or do I want to, because I honestly wasn't talented enough in the horse realm to really go after that full ham, at least that I
Yeah.
could tell. Everybody in my life is like, come on, dude, you're not a competitive horseback rider.
Yeah.
I love this. So I had to like choose, you gotta focus and, be realistic and like, where does your heart really pull you and what can you cultivate the most at? And at the time it was just like, it was more practical that like, really I have to go after this. And through this, I can pave a way to get back to that. So, this is an avenue where you could certainly find yourself back surfing, on,
Yeah.
on the regular,
But yeah, you have to make those tough choices, and it's really hard, I think, like early on to understand that. You're like, I want everything, and
You have to make sacrifices for sure.
For sure.
I love this that you're
We have a zoo. I'm sorry.
No, this is great. This is an audio only podcast, but if you guys got to see this, I mean, I would love to get to the point where I air these things on YouTube. But we are recording like full images and videos on Zoom, but like there's a whole veterinary office in their laps right now.
Yeah,
They're just walking across the screen.
Oh my gosh, our pets just want to be in the same room as us. So.
They're very well behaved. Like they're just like, oh, love me. I love you.
They just want love.
Yeah. Our dog Tilly is the one that you could probably hear in the background. She's doing her little Wookiee sounds. Yeah, little Chewbacca sounds.
No, actually, Gabe and I just went over this. Zoom does a really good job of like muting background audio. So if it isn't, if it isn't in the forefront, it really doesn't capture it very well.
Nice. That's awesome.
I know. More's the pity. I mean, I'm sure your baby has a lot of beautiful things to say, but
right. Yep.
Like, I'm here too, damn it.
Yeah.
Let me see him. Yeah. She's fine. She's got her phone now. She's occupied.
So Jess, you had to like, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing because when I started my apprenticeship, I was told that I would lose my relationship, which did happen. It happened way later, but my boyfriend at the time was an audio engineer, and I think it was just like dueling passions. Like, I don't think I gave him the kind of support that I don't know if he wanted. I can't hack it. It just didn't work. But I was told that it was going to sever my relationship, being with somebody and pursuing a tattoo apprenticeship, that it was just all encompassing, that it was going to be like an obsession. It always had been, art was. So, but for you, it seems like you were like, man, I don't know if I want to be a vet tech anymore. Like,
definitely. Yeah. I never wanted to go back to the veterinary field. Like, love everybody that works in it. It is not an easy job. But I just knew I didn't want to do that again. And I think that like one of the biggest things was like when I was a vet tech and I was working 13-hour shifts with like no breaks, working emergency, or if I was working at the Humane Society, working in surgery all day, it didn't matter. I was always so physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted. I would go home. Kevin would come home after tattooing all day and he'd be like, man, I am so exhausted. And I'd be like, you're exhausted.
Like,
and I'd be like, what do you mean? Down and tattoo all day. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so when I started tattooing, and especially doing these like bigger tattoos as time went on, I was like, wow, I get it. Like, I really get it. So I feel like we've been able to like bond in a way over that. Like, I now understand everything that he's been going through and like the trials and stuff that he's had to overcome, then I had to overcome later on. So, I mean, like, it definitely wasn't easy apprenticing with him and learning alongside him. But we had a lot of other people like helping teach me too along the way.
Yeah.
And we had like an understanding of what one another was like experiencing, and we both wanted to grow. And so I think that because of that, it just worked out really well.
For sure. Like, we both have that idea that like we both want to grow together. We want each other to grow as people and as artists, and like we're open to that too. And it's not like there was any gatekeeping in any way. Like, if Jess had a question about something and, it was early on, I was like, yeah, like, I'm going to help you try. Help you try to understand this as much as possible. Like, I want you to understand this concept and be able to apply it to your work if that's what you need in your work. So we're always trying to push each other to grow and learn. And when we started out, I had Jess, we had her tattooing at a studio. Sorry, our dog is, I don't know if you can hear her.
It's fine. She's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I don't care.
Okay.
I give myself
She's
a lot of
sliding.
outs with the podcast world. Like I like the rawness of it, and
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like the people who it's a slow grow to awesome for me. I really try not to overly advertise or anything like that. I feel like the crowd that comes is the integral crowd that's ready to listen.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
it's fine.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
all the little, our dog.
Yeah,
It's
that's
real
great.
life. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Fair enough. But yeah, so early on, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be the one to teach Jess everything in our dynamic. So I was like, I need to have you around other artists who are driven and really want to grow and learn as artists and are also putting out good work too. So we ended up working with my buddy Joe Newt at his shop here in Rochester for a handful of months. And
He came to Paradise.
yeah, Joe came to Paradise with us. He's awesome.
Right on.
Big
Yeah.
thanks to Joe for everything he's done for me personally. But
He's
he
a cool
allowed
dude.
Jess and I to tattoo at his studio, and Jess learned a lot. And that was like her first full year really at his studio. But at the time, he had a small studio. It was just him and one other artist and us. And it was kind of slow and a little bit harder. And then we were approached by a friend of ours, Zach Wheeler at Have Hope, and he had put together like a really great crew of like 7 artists, 8 artists, all that were doing different styles and were really amazing at what they were doing, and all growing and able to help Jess learn how to tattoo as well and help me stay motivated and inspired. So that was the best case scenario, us going there. So we made the decision to go work there, and I think Jess did a lot of her growth in the first few years there. That was definitely
because it wasn't intimidating at all. Like everybody was around the same age range.
Yeah.
And everybody had a different style of tattooing, and I could watch people tattoo and I could ask as many questions as I wanted to. And I never felt like so intimidated that I couldn't observe or I couldn't ask questions, or if I needed help with something, I wasn't afraid to ask, placing a circular stencil on a ball of a shoulder, how hard that is. So asking help for things like that, and how to get better at line work, because that was something I was like, man, I feel like I'm really struggling with this. So I would run around to every artist and do you have any tips? What is something that works for you? And it was definitely a really, really great place to grow. And I'm very grateful for that experience.
Well, yeah. And you guys, you have different styles, you do very ornamental, geometric kind of work. And Kevin, you do more of a neo-traditional kind of feel to your work. So, and yours is very illustrative, whereas yours is, like I said, very ornamental, very symmetrical. I would imagine it would help you, Kevin, to have, other people kind of inform that, because, part of teaching somebody is not wanting to tell them what they should want to tattoo or kind of control their style. You can only give them what you have.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing, was luckily I had tattooed in every style leading up to that. In my first few years, I was doing realism, and I was doing really new school type work, and I was doing some black and gray realism, color realism. I also have always loved biomech, so I was doing a lot of that stuff, and that helped me learn so many different styles of tattooing. But along the way, I tried some geometric work and was like, this isn't for me. I have applied a few good tattoos in that style, but I was like, this is not for me personally.
Nor me, man. My hat's off, Jess, because
power to you. Power to anybody who's in that style and killing it, because it's math to me.
You mentioned
impressive.
A ball of a shoulder. A ball of a shoulder is one thing, but putting an ornamental piece on a ball of a shoulder is
it's tough.
Oh my God.
It's
tough.
Different.
I'm sending it to New York. That's what I'm doing.
I like a good challenge. So
good.
For sure.
I would imagine you would, girl. My Lord. No, I think it's, I mean, I will say, for the times that I've done it, it's very meditative, and I do love the very precise technical aspect of it. And you kind of get in this really awesome kind of, like I said, meditation headspace, where it's a very different type of tattooing that I can appreciate once in it. The part that I hate about tattooing is putting on a stencil, hands down. once you get past that, you're golden, but like that
Yep.
part, holy shit. Hey, are you somebody who likes to draw? Are you somebody who wants to draw better? Are you someone who tattoos? Are you somebody who wants to tattoo better? Well, then I recommend that you go to our special offer in our show notes of this podcast page. Our website is theapprenticeshipdiaries.com, and on this page you'll find all our listed episodes. Within there, the show notes, there will be a link, TAD 10. Click on there and find yourself 10% off a year's worth of the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon. It will make you better.
Go on Instagram, subscribe to Oddball Rifle Club if you're interested in muzzle-loading rifles and black powder firearms.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes. I feel like I've got it pretty down for the most part.
You know what's funny about
Just
this?
gotta explain to people that like no part of their body is perfectly flat.
Right.
Their legs and arms are not like a soup can. And we just gotta make things work. And sometimes it means like stenciling part of it and drawing part to make it look more symmetrical. But yeah, it's fun. I love it.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Kevin?
I was gonna say, like, I love stenciling people. Like, it's funny because I definitely have done a lot of freehanding. But everything that I do, I want to fit the flow of the body and aesthetically work with the anatomy and not have anti-flow. I want it to look good and accentuate where it's going and make people feel comfortable with that piece. And like, that's a whole part in the stenciling process, making sure the flow is right. And it's probably just from doing so many large stencils, but I enjoy that part of it down to like, love the drawing, love the stenciling, the whole part. And pretty much for that stuff, I get it almost every time first try now. And I just use registration marks with a Sharpie, like, and line it up ahead of time. But the stuff Jess is doing definitely requires more, like splitting stencils in half, stenciling them in multiple pieces, and also freehanding stuff for sure, because trying to do symmetrical designs on the body just is really hard. So
True. And the other part of that too is that it's always good, to have when you're doing things that maybe you're doing a mirror on the other side of the body, or you're really trying to gauge whether or not it is centered correctly, having somebody outside of yourself. So that's kind of nice that you were able to be there for each other. And also you had now the shop that could kind of be like, you could walk your client and be like, hey, does this look even to you? Because it looks even to me, but I don't want to.
Yeah, like it looks good to me, but please don't shoot me in the foot and tell me it's off at the top by like a millimeter, and then I notice it. I'm like, crap, you're right. I have to move the whole thing again. That happens all the time. Yep.
I'd rather move it a million times and make sure it's right than do the tattoo and be like, oh man, that's a little off right there.
Yeah, the prep. You gotta prep first and make sure everything on the forefront is good. And like, I love our studio now because I'll have Cameron ask me all the time, and our other artist Lindsay and Jess and I will all look at each other's work and be like, hey, everybody stops tattooing and they're like, does this look right to you? And we're all looking from across the room, squinting our eyes and tilting our heads and looking like weird little creatures.
Holding up our fingers.
What are they doing?
Everybody's staring at me and they look weird. What's going on? Yeah.
You should hand them, this would be a fun, I just popped in my head. You should hand them a shop camera or something like that, where they could take pictures of all of your faces as you're looking at them like that.
Yeah.
That'd be like a series of like,
I love it. This is Kevin as a gremlin trying to look at the stencil.
Like,
that'd be good.
All these things up on your, like a whole board of like your faces as you're looking at your client's work, and like as you're tattooing with like
such a good idea.
I love it. We should get this going.
Just hand everybody Polaroid cameras when they come in.
Genius.
I only am appreciative that my clients ask me, can I take pictures? Because I realize that I have a very dumb face when I'm tattooing.
We all do.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, it's really bad. Like, I've started taping my mouth shut at night. Like, this is a whole thing, guys. You're young still, but like, as you get older, like, I was starting to get jowls on my like face, and I was like, holy shit.
Breathing?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, at
at
nighttime
night.
is totally mouth breathing. You can't help it, right?
Well, and I was doing it when I was tattooing too. I was like, holy shit, like I get the slack jaw. Yeah, look. And your
Yeah.
IQ like dips like 10 points.
Oh
All you gotta do is shut your mouth.
wow, that
That's
makes a whole lot of
amazing.
sense.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, holy shit, I'm so glad I'm aware of this because I was seeing pictures of me. I was like, what is that face?
Right? Oh,
Holy crap.
I feel the
Fix
same
that.
way.
right.
Well, and videotaping too, like me chewing gum, not a good look. I'm sure some people can make it look cool, but not me. Not me. I cannot
I'm
have
like,
gum in my mouth.
you just can't put a hat on. I just put my hat on while I'm tattooing, and I'm like, here's my client's view. They're just
Oh,
all
yeah.
they're seeing is my hat down, and I'm hard at work,
That's
and my dumb faces
perfect.
are hidden. Yep.
That's a good thing. I like the hat. I like the hat. I used to be a hairstylist, so for me to wear a hat, it's kind of admitting that like I didn't do anything today. Like people can't trust you if you're like, I didn't even
That's
do
like
my hair
how
today.
I am today.
Yeah. Right.
I'll
I'm
rock
like,
it
yeah,
in
I
the
don't feel like
tattoo world.
brushing it today. Put a hat
Yeah.
on.
Totally. I mean, you don't need my hair. That's not important to this.
It's not important.
But it's kind of like that low key, back guilt that I have. I'm like, you didn't do a damn thing today.
Right. Yep.
Put a hat on and was lazy. I'll just
Put a
start out
stylish
the
hat,
whole
you're good.
session with being like, what's up? I decided not to work, do my hair today. And they're like, oh, yeah, but it's cute. And I'm like, I just had to get that out there. It's like a whole thing.
Perfect.
These latent things from multiple apprenticeships. It's just like, show up for them, show up. So when you got into teaching each other, did you guys like make any like formal agreements with each other, or was it all just like gentleman's agreement kind of thing, word of mouth? Did I lose you? Oh, it was freezing a little bit.
No, are you still there?
Cool, we're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little freezing, but we're good. I
Awesome.
don't think we made any like formal agreements about it. It was just like we both knew the game plan like was basically we were gonna help Jess learn how to tattoo. At that point, I was like 6 years in, so I knew enough. But I was like, I need other people also, so we're gonna be having to shift gears and move probably. And
it was a very laxed apprenticeship, very go with the flow. Did a couple tattoos, and then
we started Jess on like fake skin and
Yeah.
stuff. I had her drawing a lot and like looking at tattoo design work first. It was a lot of like looking at really like what I consider heavy hitters in the tattoo world, looking at their work and exposing them to her early on, so she can realize like the level of work that's being put out there and how serious she needs to take it if she wants to do the stuff that the style she wanted to do.
Got
like,
you. That's great. Did you how much did you play
look
around
at this
with
work
that,
and
Jess?
expose yourself to it?
Oh, that was a little jarbled. What was that again?
I You're good. I drew a whole bunch in quite a few different styles, like did a lot of floral work. I was doing in the beginning, I did a lot of like very simple, like fine line type stuff. And then I was like, I really want to get into dot work. I want to do all dot work, everything.
Yeah.
So I did that for quite a while. I was doing like pay me $80 and sit for as long as you can. Like once I was starting to charge people and just
cool.
like tattooing as much as I could on them. And then from there, I was like, I don't want to do dot work anymore. So I started like shifting to other things and just kind of like played around for a bit and kept drawing and putting stuff out there of like what I wanted to like get into. And I had a lot of amazing clients that were very open and very supportive. And I don't think I'd be where I am today without them, to be honest.
Yeah,
It sounds
100%.
like you took a leap in just wanting time under the needle and was willing to give them as much as you could put out in that exploration. It sounds like you guys were meeting each other, halfway the whole way. I think when you do it that way, people will follow you no matter what, because they know that you you really love it and you're really into it. And
I'm still tattooing the same people, like some of the same people that I did free tiny tattoos on in like my first month of tattooing. Like they're still coming to me, and I think that is like so incredible.
Yeah.
Do you guys both, this is for both of you, do you remember your first tattoo, like on a person?
I do. My first like handful of tattoos were all on pretty like close friends of mine, like, you know, a bunch of like skateboarder kids who were just like, yeah, just do whatever, dude. Like you can do whatever you want. And then so I had a few friends, we did like just simple outlines on them. My like first tattoo that I ever did was just like an outline of a rose on my good buddy Mike's leg. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying.
So the shop I started out at was Extreme Graphics, which is a street shop, kind of high paced. Get people in, get them out. There was like 11 artists or 12 artists. It was
Damn.
2 stories. And I think almost everybody in the shop stopped their tattoo to come stand over my shoulder.
Shit.
And like along with the owner at the time. And I was tattooing my friend who I was apprenticing there under and with. And so that was great and comforting. And he's like so sweet about it. He's like, dude, you're going to do great, man. Your artwork's great. Like, you're going to kill this. It's fine. Let me tattoo his calf, which is nice and easy in comparison to other areas. So I'm starting it, and everybody in the shop is like popping by to like whisper something in my ear or like make me sweat. And they're like, why are you doing it like that? And oh my God, it was the most nerve-wracking thing ever. And I swear my entire body, including my hand, was shaking, but the needle, somehow the tattoo came out straight. Like the needle was good. The tattoo came out great. I don't know how I did it, but I saw that tattoo like a month or 2 ago, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that is still there, number one, but it looks pretty decent. And yeah, so that was my first one that I really remember tattooing.
How long did it take? Yeah. They always take like
oh my God,
a million years.
It probably was like, it's smaller than my palm or like smaller than a baseball. Right. Outline of a rose, very simple rose. It probably took me like 3 hours or something ridiculous, like 2.5, 3 hours. And you know, I was just freaking out the whole time, but it healed great. And I can't believe it, to be honest with you, but.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, girl?
Yeah, I remember my first one. It was on a good friend of mine, Nicole. I had like grown up with her, and she came in and got like a tiny little like outline of a small like rose, like a Beauty and the Beast type rose. If you like Google it, you'll be able to find it. And it was like on the back of her arm, and I was so nervous. So I tattooed myself like the hour before she came in. I did like a small little eyeball tattoo on my like inner ankle because I was so nervous. I like had to get the jitters out.
Yeah.
And so I did that and like cleaned up my station, set up for her, and just in doing that, like it started to ground me a little bit more. And she came in, and I remember like being like, thank you so much for being my first client, like this is amazing, I'm so excited and so nervous. And I like went to go do the first line, and my hand was like shaking so hard. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do, Kevin? What do I do? Yeah. And he's like, just take a deep breath, like commit to the line. And it turned out pretty okay, honestly.
It turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot worse.
And I felt so good after it. And she was so happy about it. And I've tattooed her a few more times over the years too. But yeah, that was my first tattoo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I was gonna say, it's kind of neat that you both did roses.
I know.
You know, like that's really
it's kind of
interesting.
funny.
Yeah,
I haven't even really thought of that.
Yeah.
And you tattooed yourself willingly, just as like a pre-fight hype.
Yeah, I had to. I was like, I gotta get this out of my system.
It's funny because I've explored a lot of different things, and it's part of why I do the podcast. It's just kind of like feeling out different modalities. I think it's really, I mean, honestly, the person that you're encountering is who you have to teach. There's not any one set way. I think that, you know, there's things to know about tattooing, but the way to tattoo them and the way to instruct them is really per person. And I had my apprentice, she tattooed her husband, who was really into collecting first tattoos. So that was super easy for her.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that's a best case scenario right there.
Right? But then afterwards, I was like, okay, well, maybe like you, Jess, like maybe tattoo yourself. I tattooed myself. That blew her out of the water. Like she was like, holy shit, this is so hard. I'm humbled. Like part of it was she couldn't really see because every time she put her head over her leg, it would like take the light away. So I had to get like a headlamp, and I was like, it's horrible. I'm fucking up. And then I'm like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like cavalier with my body. Like I'm like, it's all gonna go to shit eventually, whatever. But she actually liked her body and her legs, and so she was just like, oh my God, no, like I'm screwing up my ankle.
Right. I just threw a piece of graffiti on this freaking temple. Oh my God, it's not good.
It was not bad. She was just like, it was like you said, it was like that those jitters that she was like, feeling the pressure of the whole situation. And it was so much more than I could instruct her through, because we had different attachments to our bodies. And and it was kind of neat because I got to, kind of coach her as we went. My boss came in and was goofy, and we kind of had like a like a moment to shake it off and like
nice, break the ice,
look up and be like, I'm humbled.
It really is so humbling to tattoo yourself. I think Cameron tattooed himself before he tattooed anybody else. And it was great that he did that, because he was like, wow, it's definitely a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, you know.
I had him kind of do like tattooing grapefruit and some fruit kind of to start out, like some things that weren't flat, because there's a lot of this fake skin, which is great, but it's not three-dimensional really.
It's different than real
different skin. It doesn't stretch. So I wanted him to have something 3D to work on that you could cut open and see how deep the ink went into the skin.
Well, and I was just so you guys know, I was interviewing Nick Baxter before I met with you guys, which is really cool. I mean, I was like, whoa, Nick Baxter.
That's amazing. Right? Nick is amazing. Oh my gosh.
I was kind of blowing my mind. I mean, you guys are, this is blowing my mind too, because I was approached and I was like, we want to be on the show. And I was like, oh my God, people like me.
Yeah, you're awesome. I'm loving what you're
awesome.
doing.
Yeah.
Like what the
I can't wait to hear the other shows.
This is cool. But the thing about tattooing grapefruit and citrus is, and this is something that I'm also passionate about, in the healing world and things like that, our olfactories are so integral to our healing capabilities and fixing trauma and things like that. Citrus is actually a very, very like fun smell for people, and it invigorates you, it excites you, it turns up a very nice like energy space. And when you tattoo your citrus fruits, the whole room smells like citrus. It's like good smelling day.
It is. I never even really thought of it like that, as far as like the healing side of it, but that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I feel like when Pam was tattooing, it kind of put me back to when I started, because I did the same thing, and it like brought everything full circle, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. It did feel that way too, for sure. It felt like exciting.
It's an arrival day. Like it's like, oh, this is so cool. And it's like you're getting all this different, definitely different sensations than you will when you actually tattoo. But it's like a neat, and that's where our memory sensors like go into too. Is like you said, took me back to my time doing it. So like there's so much locked into our memory that's about our olfactory systems, and citrus is a really good smell for that. So if you ever just want like an extra perk for the day, put a little citrus on you. It's good.
Nice. Definitely gonna use that one. Yeah. That's so cool.
Amazing. You like put the aroma out in the shop and be like, we're gonna have a citrus day.
I actually have a little essential oil diffuser at my station, and I have a little essential oil bottle that's energy, and it has lemon in it, citrus. So I use that once in a while. I don't do it all the time, but once in a while I use it when I feel like I need it.
Just gonna walk around with an orange and just squeeze the skin out of the shop, like spritzing.
Yeah.
Seriously, man. It's a thing. And it's a good astringent too. Like it helps, clean and all of that.
The air doesn't
get rid of the germs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about
people brush their teeth, they sucked on lemons.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Oh. Fun facts.
So crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
I love fun facts.
total segue.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, how long did it take you before you were actually like tattooing people?
Me? Oh, I feel like I got into it pretty quick, honestly.
It was within like a year, right? Like from the time we were in Maui to the move back.
Yeah.
Joe.
I probably was like drawing for at least like 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing like fake skin.
Yep.
And then after the fake skin, segued into like very tiny, simple tattoos for free on like friends and family. Like my grandma came and got tattooed by me.
Yeah. But that time was pretty, like, how many months in were you? Do you remember
exactly? At that point, I think it was like about 6 months in.
We definitely kind of streamlined Jess's apprenticeship compared to mine. I wasn't tattooing that quickly, but.
So to be clear, so this was all, the beginning of it happened in Maui, like you guys did start it there. So you joined him in Maui?
Yeah, we ended up moving to Maui together after he moved back here.
Yep.
We got back together, and 4 months later, we moved to Maui.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we lived there for a while. And then that's when I got a job as a receptionist at the tattoo studio while working at the food establishment. And that's when I started like drawing a lot of like flash and like learning tattooing and taking seminars. I remember like buying a $100 seminar from Laura Jade at one point. And
which is an incredible seminar.
Yeah. Yes. And I was just drawing a lot and practicing on fake skin. And then when we came back to New York, that's when we ended up going into the one studio.
Yeah, part of the reason for moving back too was obviously we were like, all right, we're committed to tattooing. We need Jess's wanting to learn. We got to take this seriously. Like, we had better opportunity in New York, so we moved back, and it was, pretty short after that. Jess was tattooing, 6 months or so of being back. She was starting to do these very small tattoos on, willing canvases. Amazing clientele that we had. So
that's awesome. I would imagine it would go pretty fast if you're constantly in it. You come home and your relationship's really kind of married with it, so to speak. You're I would imagine the saturation's pretty, and plus the trust. I mean, it's not like you don't know what she's doing when she gets home,
right. Yeah, we're like
right.
Yeah, we were together a lot, like, and then we're also very independent people too. Like, we know that we need our own time and our own like hobbies and things too, so that's a healthy balance we try to keep in mind. And because of that, like, that's why it works, but we are, and we're spending a lot of time together in the studio and then at home, and then like drawing, or Jess would pop in and be like, hey, have you seen this? Like, how was this achieved? Like, while we're at home, and I'm like looking at something and having to figure out how to put it into words, how to break this idea down, and it helped me grow and learn as well.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a lot of that
fantastic
stuff going on. Yeah,
that's awesome. Now, apart from Cameron and Jess, who else have you apprenticed, or are they your two?
So it was Jess first, and then my friend Cameron. It's really funny. I can't believe he didn't get into tattooing earlier, but he asked me to teach him how to tattoo at I was like at the end of my apprenticeship, like a year and a half in or whatever. And he's like, dude, teach me how to tattoo. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, you're on crack. I would never. I'm like, I can't teach you how to do this. I have no idea what I'm doing yet. Like, I just got in, and I was like, if you haven't found an apprenticeship by 8 years or 10 years in, like, I'll teach you how to tattoo. Well, fast forward exactly 10 years, right? It's like to the day we were working at Have Hope here in Rochester, and we decided it's time to open up our own studio. And Cameron asked me to do a full sleeve for him. And we were talking about it, and that's when I was like, dude, now's the time. Like, I need to know from you though. I'm like, I need to know if you want to commit to this, like, because this is the one chance you're going to get. Like, I'll teach you, but I need to know that you're serious about it. And he's always been serious about art. He did graffiti, he did screen printing, album covers, graphic design. He had all these other great tools in his belt. And he was like, he didn't take it too, lightheartedly. He was like, okay, like, whoa, like, and he finally decided, he's like, okay, like, yeah, I'm ready to do it, dude, let's go. And then, so I apprenticed him.
No, he's been tattooing for over 2 years now. And then we just took on a new apprentice.
We just took on an apprentice together.
Pretty much, yeah.
She's, and also similar story. She's been getting tattooed by both of us for 8 years now.
Yeah, since the very beginning. I did one of my very first bigger tattoos on her.
Yeah, her name's Christina, and she's awesome. She's in love with art, and I think that's
awesome.
She's so
incredible.
Sweet. I've known her since preschool too.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, so Jess has a connection with her since preschool, which is crazy, and we've been, working with her, tattooing her for the last like 8 years or so.
She's
And-
always asked questions
Yeah.
at like while she's getting tattooed. She'll be like, so what are you doing? What are you using? How are you making this happen? And just like always so inquisitive and wanting to learn, and has been trying to get an apprenticeship for years.
Yeah, she's been struggling to get an apprenticeship for years, and we thought about it. And I think even at one point we were like, no, we can't take on another one. And it came around to this point where like, you know who would be really great at tattooing because they are so in love with art and
such a great person
such
overall.
a good person and a people person, like it was Christina. So
Yeah.
we're like, we should offer it to her and see, like, who knows, maybe it's not the right time for her. But we brought her into the shop. I was tattooing this beautiful caracal cat tattoo on her arm, and she was funny. Along the way, I was asking her questions and she was asking me questions and kind of was like hinting at an apprenticeship. And I was like,
she's like, if you guys are ever wanting to take on an apprentice, like, let me know. I still really want an apprenticeship. And I like look down while I'm tattooing my client, like, oh my God, I'm going to laugh right now because I can't keep it in.
At this point, we had already decided prior that we were going to offer her it. And I was just like, I just kind of blew that question off and like asked her something else. And she was like, oh shit, like they don't want me. Like, oh my God. Like, and I just kept on asking her other questions throughout the day. Well, at the end of the tattoo session, we brought her into the back into our break room and we offered her.
I told her well, she's been doing like these paint workshops with us at our shop, kind of like painting with a twist. So I was like, hey, come into the back, like take a look at the calendar. I want to set another date for our next paint workshop. And then Kevin came into the back and we're like, we actually want to talk to you about something. Yeah. And we were like, do you still want to apprentice and learn how to tattoo? And she was like, yeah, I do. And we're like, well, we would love to offer you an apprenticeship with us. Yeah. And she like started crying immediately, like didn't know if we were being serious or not. And it was
very meaningful to her. And we're stoked to have her. And, you know, now having so much experience, even since I apprenticed Jess and Cam, like I've got a bit more knowledge, and Jess as well too. Like she's going to be in good hands with the amount of, you know, technical ability as well as artistic ability in our studio. Yeah. And I think we can really, you know, help her do justice in what she wants to do. Like she's been an artist through and through, and she's never quit at it. And she continues. She has like we joke around. She's got like a, you know, 9-to-5, like big girl job.
Yeah.
In the real world. Job. And she is still doing art and teaching, like painting, and involved in the Rochester painting community, I guess, the art scene. And she, since we started tattooing her, has always kept up with that and really showed a lot of passion and drive for it. So I was like, okay, you are somebody who likely has this drive, and that's what we're looking for in an apprentice, is somebody who can, you know, continue to show that they love it and they're driven.
Well, yeah, and continually resubmit to that art, you know. I mean, she's already, you know, doing that and perpetuating it, teaching it. And it's really, I mean, it seems like it's going to be a great thing, because once she understands tattooing on a higher level, she'll be able to even scale the education part of it.
Which is sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. We're excited for her.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is awesome, because not only did you guys take the risk of, you know, your relationship, but also, I mean, not to downplay a romantic relationship, but friendships are really rare when they're good. And, you know, risking having those things fall apart is hard. I mean, you find out a lot about whether or not you do actually like somebody, or you are friends.
Yeah,
for sure.
Be honest with you, that kind of happened to me and my apprentice. Like at the end of it, we're not really talking anymore. I mean, it is what it is. You gotta, I'm happy that she's a very successful tattoo artist. That was the goal. Right. But yeah, like we don't really mesh well in how we do things, and yeah, that's fine. But you know, it's a risk. Okay, listeners, that is officially the end of part 1 of Jess and Kevin's diary entry. Part 1. So next week is part 2. This week was called Risk. I don't know if you're going to see what's coming next week, but I think that since this is a pretty awesome thing and I'm highlighting it, you might be able to guess it. But definitely come back. Definitely be sure to follow both Jess and Kevin, and a little extra because they're doing great things over at Mesmer in Rochester, New York. So go and follow Mesmer Tattoo as well. Thank you, listeners. Have a blessed week. So happy to have you here. Just endless gratitude. Make it powerful.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.